record. So
It is
trailer safety.
recording.
We're going to talk about trailer safety and those things as far as handling and different things there. Welcome to the trailer safety webinar. And so we want to talk about different types of trailers. They're going to handle differently if they're different shapes, different sizes. Some have different lengths. There's a typical utility trailer like you see in the picture here. There's also flatbed trailers, and a gooseneck trailer, which would pull completely different than a bumper pull trailer. There's cargo trailers, horse trailers, even a boat, and so there's different purposes, there's different ways they're used, and they pull differently with different vehicles. And so we want to talk about those hazards and things that you might run into with a trailer, things you want to check for to handle it safely. So as we go through this today, think about the types of trailers that you use. Think about the things that you do in your workplace. And maybe there's something that stands out to you today that you can learn new. Maybe there's a new technique or something that you want to try that can make it safer for you and keep the equipment safe. So as we go through that, think about those things. So when it comes to the vehicle and the trailer, the main connection is the hitch, and that's really the critical part of that connection there. It's what attaches that trailer to your vehicle and makes it one complete vehicle there. And so it's important to have the proper connections, making sure that the chains are hooked up, the coupling's on there properly, and we're going to look at those and identify things that you want to look for and things that you want to do to make sure that that connection is on there the right way. So with that, it's critical. That's really what connects the two there. The first thing we'll look at is the safety chains. So you want to have these crossed and connected, have good connections there. You want to have them in good condition, and so you want to check that out before you go driving off with the trailer. Check those chains and make sure that they're in good shape. What it does, the reason why you want to cross these is because if that hitch were to come undone or that trailer comes off the ball, the coupling comes loose, whatever it is, if that comes loose, if you've got those chains crossed underneath, it's going to catch that tongue of the trailer, and it can cradle it and support it until you can stop the vehicle and figure out what went wrong and get hooked back up again. And so that's the reason why they want to cross those. But check your chains out. You want to make sure that they have enough strength and capability to support that. There's been incidents where there's chains that are not strong enough, they're inadequate, and the tongue comes off and it falls and it can come loose. And so have the right chains, make sure that they're in good shape for your connections there. The other thing that you want to look at on the connections are your electrical connections. So they have a multi-terminal plug. There's some that are a 4-pin. There's also the round type. Whichever type it is, you want to make sure that that thing is secure and in the socket, that the connections are tight, that they're together, and that your lights are going to stay on that trailer as you're driving down the road. So check those out. And then there's the drawbar. This is the bar that goes into the receiver, and it has the ball on there which connects to the trailer. So you want to check the capacity on these. It'll be stamped right on the bar, and in this picture you can see it's right in front of the ball. On that drawbar, it will say the capacity of what it can support. But the key thing here that you want to look at when you put this in is make sure that that pin is in and make sure that pin is secure. You don't want that drawbar to be coming loose and coming out as you're pulling a trailer. So watch for the connections there. Looking at your coupler. This is on the tongue of the trailer on the front of it. This is what attaches the trailer to the ball on that drawbar. And so the critical thing you want to look for here is make sure that that ball matches the coupler. Make sure that they're the same size. There's different sizes. There's a 2-inch and there's an 1 3/4. And if you were to mix and match those, you're not going to have the right connection on there. And that coupler could come loose and come off, and your trailer could come away from the vehicle. So always make sure that you have the right size coupler for the right size ball on the trailer. There's several different sizes there. They have a lever and cam locking device which locks down. So when you put that coupler on top of that ball, make sure that that locks down and make sure that it's secure. And don't forget to put that pin in. Make sure that pin is in there. Make sure it's secure and in place so that your trailer is connected properly. Okay. Before you take off, make sure that's all set to go. Looking at the ball. So you have the coupler that goes on the ball. Again, you want to match that and make sure they're the same sizes. If it's a 2-inch ball, you have a 2-inch coupler. And make sure that you don't exceed the gross vehicle weight of the trailer. Your vehicle itself will have a rating of what it can carry and pull. The trailer will have a gross vehicle weight rating, and also the ball and the hitch and receiver are all rated for these types of things. You don't want to overload something and overdo it with carrying something too heavy on your vehicle. So check those ratings, make sure you're using the right ones. This is the receiver. This is on the back of the vehicle. And again, never exceed the capacity. There's a tag. You can check that and see what type of a load it can handle. And again, you want to make sure that can support it, because you don't want to overdo it and have something break off the back and have a trailer come loose if your receiver isn't adequate for the load. So always check those things. So here's an example of a gross vehicle weight rating. They have a little label there, and make sure you check that out. It's good to know how much load the trailer can carry. It'll have it on the trailer, it'll have it on the vehicle or the truck, and you want to know what it can handle before you go driving off. So check those things out. Those are all very important things you want to check for there. When we look at loading the trailer, this is another thing. People get into trouble with this. They put sometimes too much weight in the back end of a trailer, or too much on one side, which can cause it to lean or cause it to sway as you're driving down the road. So what they recommend is that you have a good part of that weight to the front of the trailer. They say at least 10% of the weight on the tongue of the trailer. What that does is it allows your trailer to pull a lot smoother. It's a lot easier to pull that way, and you want to have your weight distributed evenly so that you'd have a little bit more weight in the front, and that it's even side to side and front to back, that you have the right distribution so that it's pulling right. And you can see in the picture how that can really pull down on your back end of a vehicle and can really cause other problems like swaying and braking problems and control problems. So make sure that you get it set up the right way, that your load is stable and in the right places on the trailer. Remember, just don't overload it. You don't want to overdo it and have something break. You don't want to have something come loose or break the trailer or cause an accident because you took too much of a load on a trailer that your vehicle or your trailer wasn't able to handle. So don't overdo it. Don't overload there. And then talking about the load distribution, again, that causes some fishtailing. I'm sure you've seen cars going down the highway or down roads, and they start to sway back and forth, and they're going in and out of lanes. That happens because several things. One could be the load is not on there the proper way. It could be the way that they're driving. Even weather conditions like wind can cause that fishtailing. So load it properly and watch for those things. What happens is if you have too much load on the front, you can have steering problems with your vehicle and possible braking problems. And then if you have too much load on the back, that also causes braking problems. So you want to be able to control your trailer and drive safely down the road. And by having your load in the right place and set up the right way, you can avoid problems there. One of the important things too on a trailer is making sure that you secure the load. You can think about it, if you had to stop really fast and you had a load that went sliding across the trailer and slammed into the front, that's going to cause some damage and cause some problems there. And so it's important to secure your load. You don't want those things to shift side to side or front to back or to bounce up and down, especially if you've got something really heavy on a trailer. You want to have that tied down and secure. And so make sure that you secure those things before you take off. There's lots of straps and winches and tie downs and rope and chains, things that you can use to secure those things so that they don't shift on you. Some of you might be taking maybe a backhoe on a trailer or something really heavy like a big piece of equipment. Make sure that you have everything connected properly, that you have everything secure and in place, that it doesn't go running off there. Okay, those are really good things you want to watch for there. And one of the most important things with a trailer is check it out before you drive off. This is something that I like to do when I hook up to a trailer. I'll just double check everything. It takes a little bit of time to get the ball centered under the coupler and to get that lowered down and locked down and connections in place. But it's important that when everything's ready, just do a quick walk around and check it out. Make sure that everything's connected. Check the chains. Make sure it's all good to go, because you don't want to have something come loose or have something flying around as you're going down the road. One of the things that I've done before, which is helpful that somebody taught me, is when you get that coupler on there and you lock it down, put the jack stand back down and start to crank up that jack a little bit, And if the back end of your vehicle starts to come up with the trailer, then you know you've got a good connection on there. And that's just a good way to double check that. Make sure that that coupler isn't going to come off of that ball. So double check it and do a check before you go walking around and driving off there. Here's another thing you can do, and this might be beneficial for your organization as well, is have a pre-trip inspection form. So this is an example of one of those. You could have just a basic form that lists things you want to look for on a trailer before you go driving off. And think about it, it's a good practice. You might get in the routine and the practice of checking for these things, and it might really save problems down the road or save from having an accident. So just ask yourself, before you drive off with the trailer, is everything ready to go? Is everything secured on there? What about gates and latches and pins? Are they all in place? Check those things out. Make sure that it's good to go, and don't take chances with that so that you don't run into a problem there. So, what kinds of things do you want to look for when you're looking at a trailer? Well, check out the jack, on the tongue. Is it, when it's connected to the vehicle, is it raised up, or is it pinned in place? I had one time on a boat trailer that was the kind that would swivel, and so you'd pull the little pin out, you'd swivel it and lock it in place. You wouldn't want to have that thing come loose and fall down as you're driving down the road and have that jack hit the ground. So check for those things. Watch for things that you can look for there on the tongue jack. Make sure it's secured. Check out the condition of the trailer. What's it like? Are there any loose components? Are the welds breaking? Are there anything deteriorating on the trailer? Check the conditions. Check your connections. Check your tire pressures. Make sure that everything's ready to go on that trailer. One of the most important things on a trailer is your lights. Sometimes you're driving a big trailer that has limited view, and sometimes people couldn't see your tail lights because of the shape of the trailer, and so it's important to make sure that those lights are working on that trailer. Turn on the ignition. Test them out. Try your turn signals, both left and right. Tap the brake lights. Have somebody stand behind the trailer and make sure that those lights are coming on and that they're running right, so that you don't have problems on the roadways. You want to be able to signal and give people the proper warnings that you need in traffic. So check those lights, check your connections there. Another thing you might want to look at are the tires and the wheels. What about load ratings? Are these the right type of a tire for the type of a trailer that you have? Are they the right size, the right construction? What about tread? Is tread in good condition? What about proper inflation? Maybe check the lug nuts and the wheel bearings. All those things are things you'd want to check out before you go driving off and have a heavy load on the trailer there. So watch for those. Another thing I like to do too when I get in with the trailer is make sure that you can see what's going on around you. You want to be able to see all the sides. You want to see what's going on there. And so just adjust your mirrors. Sometimes that trailer can stick out to the side. It could be wider than your vehicle, or you may, need to see the side of the vehicle as you're turning. And so adjust your mirrors and get that set so that you can see it right there. So best practices as far as pulling, things that you want to look for. Remember that they're the total length of the vehicle. When you're connected to a trailer, it's not just the length of the vehicle. When you're going to change lanes, you've got to consider the length of that trailer as well and what's behind you, because you need to give some extra distance there for turning and merging in lanes and even following and stopping distances. You'd want to have some extra space there. Also, you want to take the wide turns around the corners. As you can see in the picture, when the truck turns, that trailer inside tire will turn a lot closer. And so it's important to remember that, to take it wider so that you don't hit anything on the inside corners there. An important thing there is to stay alert. Be alert be aware of what's going on around you at all times. Watch the traffic, watch the objects around you. Take some extra caution there and watch for those hazards as you're driving down the road. When it comes to general handling of a trailer, watch your speed. If you've got a big load behind the trailer, when you go to stop, it could really push you. You may need some extra space, extra following distance, and so take it slow. Start out slow, take it slow as you go to move, and do the things that you need to do. Some vehicles come with a driving gear. They'll have a tow or a haul option, and that's what it's there for. It's to control that vehicle, to keep the engine running at the right speeds and be able to slow down when it needs to slow down. And so if you're carrying a good-sized load, definitely use that driving tow option. Could really help you to drive in a safer manner there. You want to avoid sudden stops, sudden starts, Any bumps in the roads, you want to slow down for those. You want to do all you can to keep that trailer running smooth and control the swing and control any problems that might be there with the handling of the trailer. So those are just some good ideas and things you might consider there. Now, what about weather? I've been driving a trailer before. I had a camp trailer one time I was pulling, and we had a really heavy crosswind. And so as that crosswind was going side to side, the trailer starts to do the same thing. It starts to go back and forth and fishtail a little bit. And so when you get into those high winds, you want to just take it easy, maybe slow down a little bit. Be aware of wet roads or icy conditions, and you definitely want to increase your following distance so that you can brake in time. So consider those when you're pulling a trailer. It's a lot different than just driving a car when you've got a heavy trailer on the back of there. When it comes to backing up a trailer, a lot of people get into accidents this way. We see this a lot with trailers backing into objects behind them like posts and building structures and other things. And so one thing that you can do is use a spotter. Sometimes your sight is limited. Sometimes you can't see behind you. And so having a spotter off to the side that can guide you back can really save you a lot of hassle and avoid an accident that way. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Just ask somebody, hey, can you help spot me back a little bit, and make sure you're on the same page with hand signals and know where it's going and work together. It could be a lot easier to back up that trailer without hitting something. So that's a good recommendation there, is to use a spotter. One thing I like to do when I go to back up a trailer is I try to get that trailer lined up straight and get an idea of where it needs to go before I start backing. One of the best things you can do is just get out. Get out and look around, see what's behind the trailer, see what's in the way, see if there's any, equipment in the area or any posts or anything that you might hit behind you. You want to get that lined up first and look where it's going and plan out your back before you do it. That can save a lot of problems there. When it comes to steering, backing up a trailer is completely different than backing up a vehicle. So what happens is the direction that back end of the vehicle goes, the trailer is going to go the opposite direction. And so when you're using that steering wheel, it's completely the opposite. Some people like to put their hand on the bottom of that steering wheel when they're backing up. That way, whichever way they turn their arm and turn that wheel, that's the direction that the trailer's going to go. Some people like their hand on the top of the wheel, and they're more comfortable with that. Whichever way it is, do what's best for you and comfortable, and do what it takes to handle that trailer safely as you're backing up. It takes a lot of practice. Backing up a trailer the first time can be kind of frustrating, but with practice you get good at it and you learn how to do it over time. So be aware of all sides of the trailer, what's behind, what's on the sides, are there objects there, and realize that there might be some blind spots. There might be places that you can't see very well and things that you really need to watch for. So be aware of the sides. As far as some tips and tricks, these are just some good ideas, best practices that you might want to think about as you're using the trailer. Start slow. When you go to back up the first time, instead of just taking off and going for it, start out just a little bit slow and kind of see what direction that trailer's going, and maybe it can go, you can watch it and get the right angle on it. Even when you're taking off to go forward, start out going slow. You don't want to just gun it with the gas really fast and have things shift on you. So take it slow with the trailer. Small and slight movements, watch for those. See where the trailer's going first and line up the direction. When it comes to backing up a trailer, you've probably seen people at boat ramps and places that can be kind of comical at times. They'll take 5 and 6 times trying to get a trailer back down the ramp to get the boat in the water. One thing to think about is, if it's your first time doing it, don't be afraid to try again. If you see your trailer starting to turn too sharp one way and possibly getting into a jackknife position, don't be afraid to just pull forward, straighten it out, and get it the right way and take it slow. If we take a little extra time and caution, I think we can all learn to avoid the accidents with backing the trailers there. So in summary, we've talked about several different things with a trailer. There's different types and sizes, and it's really important just to check things out before you go. Don't be in such a hurry and in a rush that you miss the connections, or you have something that's not secured, or you have something that's loose. Do that check, walk around, go check things out, do a double check before you take off and make sure it's there. Remember that the hitch is critical. That's the connection between the trailer and the vehicle, and it's the main thing that's going to connect it there. So always double check that. Make sure it's good to go before you drive off. We talked about weight distribution, general handling, the speed, the following distance, all those things. Ultimately, just remember that if you're the one behind the wheel, you are responsible. It's just like with any car or any piece of equipment. When you get in that equipment and you're standing in front of that, or you're sitting in front of that wheel, when you turn that key on, you're the driver, and it's really on you to make sure that it's being operated safely. It's your job to protect it. You're responsible for operating it in a safe condition. And so be aware of that at all times. I think if we just keep some awareness up, maybe use some of these best practices we've talked about today, and be aware, take a little more awareness to it, I think it can really prevent some accidents down the road. And so with that, just take what you can today and apply it to the things that you do in your work areas and when we're pulling a trailer at home or at work. And it'd be great. So I don't see any questions on here. Doug, do we have any questions?
No, I don't see any questions. I just emphasize the importance of making sure you're inspecting your equipment regularly, like you mentioned. My experience, I mean, some things can sneak up on you that you may not be expecting. For example, the connection between the hitch and the truck itself. Get under there every now and then, take a look at those bolts or welds, and make sure that that hitch is firmly attached to the frame of the vehicle. I've seen failures there before. And also your safety chains, make sure that they are sufficient for the size of the trailer. That's another thing that we've seen, failures on the safety chains. And just check out the mechanics of the trailer from time to time. It's kind of like your vehicle. It does need some maintenance. Make sure those wheel bearings are staying greased and lubed, and make sure you give them a check every now and then to make sure those wheel bearings aren't getting loose.
Very good points. Good ideas. All right, everybody. Thanks for attending today's webinar. I don't see any other questions. And if you have any questions, let us know. Everybody have a safe day. Thanks for attending the webinar.